Now, as far as your skill set being a customer service representative, you'll notice that you have a tonality of almost wanting to serve, right? Like too much customer service. Like, hey Jim, how you doing? It's a great day. Hey, I appreciate you taking the call. Does that make sense? Like you're asking them and you're grateful for them. But as a loan officer, you have to almost switch it to the point where they need to be grateful to work with you, right? Kind of like when you deal with an accountant or a doctor or an attorney, if you guys have ever dealt with one, they are subject matter experts. They are consultants. They are experts within that specific niche. And that's now what we are as loan officers. So you're going to notice that the tonality and the approach is a little bit different. And there are only primarily few concerns that your prospects are going to fear, and that this is why they're going to sound the way they do when they connect with you. What's up, guys? My name is Daniel. For those of you who don't know me, like Demi, I happen to be a manager here with New American Funding. I'm running into my 6th year. Started off as a loan officer here at New American Funding, but I originally started off as a customer service representative. And this is way back when I was about 21 years old. So I'm actually turning 39 in about a week from now, exactly a week from now. So I've been doing this for quite some time. And so even though you might see me in a suit, or soon you're going to see me on the floor and I look real serious, I'm a pretty down-to-earth guy, right? I even tell my agents oftentimes, like, hey, I might look mad, but don't be worried, I'm just Asian. It's just my face. It's just the way my eyes are designed.
I feel you.
And so what I'm going to come up here for is number one is I'm an enthusiast about sales. And the reason for that is because I don't have a degree. I didn't go to fancy college, and I rely solely on sales to support my family and to provide for myself. And so I think that a lot of you, or a lot of us here, got our NMLS license because we see the upside potential with not only income, but also career-wise. And I can be one with experience to tell you that that is definitely possible as long as you adopt some really good habits that I'm going to share with you guys today. And so hopefully we have enough time to open it up for a little Q&A at the end, because that's where I actually am able to help you the most, is answer questions that you have directly. Tailored information that's specific to what you're wondering. Because I do understand that your position right now, you have yet to even do an application. You have yet to even ask a 1003 question. And so, fortunately, I actually mentor dozens of loan officers from all type of experience levels all across the country. And so I get an opportunity to work with people who were just licensed or are thinking about getting licensed. And so I already have enough empathy to know where you currently are right now. And so there are a few things that Paul wanted me to talk about. Let me grab that list real quick. Yes. And for those of you who do not have me on these social medias, please add me on your stream. Some very helpful information that I upload and I post daily. And it has a lot to do with what you do every day in order to keep your seat and make that income, right? So it's all free content. Although I do have training courses online, that's my side business. And the reason why I like to document and do these type of meetings is because it gives me content to post on social media. So it's a win-win situation. But there's 5 points that I'm gonna be covering today. The very first is key points to focus on the first call. So I understand that you guys have yet to do an application call. And what I can tell you is that oftentimes, the biggest challenge that you're gonna have is overthinking. So because you're going from a customer service role to a loan officer position. And so the dialogue's gonna be a little bit different, conversation's gonna be a little bit different. Obviously the questions are gonna be a little bit more deeper and advanced. But at the end of the day, it's really the same thing, and all you're doing is really interacting and engaging with somebody who has a problem that you can ultimately solve, right? And so I want you to remember that, because the reason why a lot of loan officers who are new fail is because they overthink it and they psych themselves out. And so they'll look at the job role as a loan officer and kind of get almost intimidated to the point where they think, oh no, I'm a licensed consultant, I don't want to say the wrong thing. My calls are being recorded. I don't want to mess up this phone conversation or sound dumb. When you're in your new role and you're coming in, a lot of it has to do with your own mindset, the way you're thinking of the job, right? And so you might often look at the job as kind of like a hard task. And so when you're in your seat right now as a customer service agent, you're not thinking that it's a hard task because you've done it enough times. And so it's repetition, right? And so you can easily take a call and transfer it to a loan officer. But the odd thing is though, is that your job right now is actually harder than a loan officer's job because you're taking someone who is not interested and transferring them to a loan officer. Does that make sense? So keep that in mind because that skill is what's gonna set you apart from all the other LOs that are on the floor because you don't have the fear of going out to hunt and get that business. So you actually are comfortable with talking to someone who is not necessarily in the market, but flipping them and connecting them with an agent. And so why that plays a key role is because a lot of the bad habits that I'm gonna be telling you guys is a glimpse into the future of what not to do when you get a little bit comfortable. And these are some of the bad habits that keep loan officers stagnant. And my goal is to hopefully answer some questions for you and give you some insight so you don't find yourself held back from a lot of the challenges and frustrations. So a few things to keep in mind in the first call is number one, understand that these people called you and they have no idea of how new you are, right? They have no idea that you just graduated the senior CSR class. They have no idea that you just got licensed. And they have no idea that you're nervous. All they know is what you allow them to know, what you allow them to believe. And so why I'm bringing this up is because, again, your very first interaction, it has a lot to do with psyching yourself out. So you might overthink it. You might think, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. What if he asks me a question that I don't know? And there are certain things called default responses. Default responses are like automatic responses that just come out. And it's basically your safety net. So if you think about it right now, one of the deep down fears that you guys have is what if they ask me a question that I don't know the answer to? Am I right? I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to mislead them or sound dumb. And so your automated response would sound something like, it's a great question. When I prepare your disclosures, I'll actually get the details for you on that. But let me ask you a few questions first. Does that make sense? And so when you answer them, you're addressing it, but you're also making note of it so that you can get the answer when you're off the phone. And that's like your safety net, that's your cushion. And after so many times, you're gonna notice that the same questions come up. It's not like, multiple dozens and dozens of questions that come up and then you're caught by surprise. And so after the phone conversation, when you find out what the answer is, you now know the next time you're asked that question, right? So having these little automated responses and these kind of protocol reactions will help you steer control the conversation. Now, as far as your skill set being a customer service representative, you'll notice that you have a tonality of almost wanting to serve, right? Like too much customer service. Like, hey Jim, how you doing? It's a great day. Hey, I appreciate you taking the call. Does that make sense? Like you're asking them and you're grateful for them. But as a loan officer, you have to almost switch it to the point where they need to be grateful to work with you, right? Kind of like when you deal with an accountant or a doctor or an attorney, if you guys have ever dealt with one, they are subject matter experts. They are consultants. They are experts within that specific niche. And that's now what we are as loan officers. So you're gonna notice that the tonality and the approach is a little bit different. And there are only primarily few concerns that your prospects are gonna fear, and that this is why they're gonna sound the way they do when they connect with you. So, which before I go into, I would say that the biggest piece of help that I can tell you guys to do is record yourself. Like get your cell phone out, open up the recorder, and find a way to record yourself. As a matter of fact, our phone system has the abilities to where you can actually hit the record button and record your entire conversation. And the reason why that's going to be helpful is because you can listen to it later and then critique the conversation. But also, you're going to notice that a lot of the objections that you come across, like I'm not interested, I want your lowest rate, what's your fee, what's your cost, it comes right about the same exact time, each and every single time. And it's going to tell you what you did to open up that path. In other words, you'll be able to take a couple steps back, listen to your wordplay, and then see what you said to open up that objection. Because a lot of the objections that you're going to get as a loan officer are actually planted by us. It's by you. Simple things like, hey, my name is Daniel with New American Funding. I appreciate you giving us a call today. How can I help you? That's allowing them to give me objections or take control of the conversation. And so after this meeting or later on today, if you go to salesremaster.com, you can actually download a copy of a free sales script. It's at the bottom of the website, and I would strongly recommend that you memorize that script, because not only is it designed for our cycle, our engine, but it's going to help you keep control of the conversation. I would recommend that you don't use your work email, you use your personal email, because NAF will quarantine the email and kick me back as spam because it's coming from salesremaster.com. Make sense? What you're going to notice in that email, and there's an outbound script on there as well, what you're going to notice about that script is that never do I ask, how can I help you? And the reason for that is because I know that they're only calling me for so many reasons, right? They're not calling me to change their oil. They're not calling me, see what the market's like. They're calling me to lower their rate to create savings because they need to redirect the cash flow. This is Refi Group, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a purchase script on there as well, but I'm gonna speak refinance with you guys. And oftentimes when these people call in, as consumers, they're gonna be on guard because they only know you as a salesperson, right? Especially when you say, hey, this is a loan officer, and you sound like a salesman. And so when we connect with a consumer, we can't take it personal if they get too aggressive with us, right? Like, hey, Daniel, before I tell you my last name, just let me know, can you give me a 2.5% 30-year fixed? We can't go back into our customer service type mentality and say, yeah, let me go and check that out for you, sir, right? Because that's the customer service side of us speaking. Instead, we got to be very adaptive and very flexible. And so even if he did hit me with that objection, you have to be flexible enough to say, yeah, let me show you how to get it. What I'm going to do is ask you a few questions first. And I'm going to make sure I can even complete this call so I can send you out the information that you need. Make sense? Another thing that you want to pay attention to is that on your very first phone conversation, these people, again, they don't know you, so you're a stranger to them. Until they actually learn about you or understand how you interact with them, they're only going to judge you based on the very first impression. So basically the first 5 seconds of interacting with you. And so why the traditional sales script of, hey, my name is Daniel, it's a great day at New American Funding, how can I help you today? Why that's not effective or why that doesn't work is because it opens up the opportunity for them to drive the conversation. And when they drive the conversation, it's only going to go in one or two ways. It's going to go either one, what's your fee, what's your rate, which is then going to put you in a path where all you're talking about is cost. But you're not actually solving the issue or the problem at hand, right? So these consumers, they're not licensed like we are. They don't understand the dynamics of a mortgage like we do. And so what they think is, I need to lower my rate by a full point, or I need to lower my rate a lot in order to create X amount of dollars in savings, right? They have no idea how savings is actually created. And our job is to find out the why. Our job is to find out the results that they need. And so even if you had a prospect call you and they said, hey, Daniel, before I go any further, can you do a 1.5 30-year fixed? Even though we know that doesn't exist, because as loan officers, you're going to get rate sheets every day. And you're going to see when the market goes up, you're going to see when the market goes down, and you're going to see what the baseline rate is, because you're going to be working up deals at the same time. And the key thing is that you don't show your cards, right? You don't default and think back and like, oh man, this guy wants a 1.5. That's just not available, right? Because then it's going to deter you and you're going to lose focus on the main objective, which is actually trying to help this person achieve a specific solution. Is that making sense? All right. So I want to, I'm still keeping in mind that a lot of this information might still be over your head, but I'm still trying to, adapt it to your experience level, because some of these questions you haven't really engaged with. Instead of, hey, what's your rate? What you're hearing is, I'm not interested, right? I'm not in the market. I don't want to refinance and things like that. Next topic is key points of the second call when finding a solution for the borrower. So a couple key points when doing your second call. What we're talking about a second call is that you don't want to try to do a one call close. One call close is where you're talking about pricing, rate, fees on the very first phone call. Especially right now at your skill level. That's probably someone who's been doing it for years and has the patience and understanding to keep them on the phone for about an hour and a half. Right now, all your main focus is on the very first phone call is to build rapport and then figure out their why, right? And so I had this acronym that I used, and it was called SENSE. Where's your dry marker at? Can I borrow?
Yeah. Nope, I like it. There's the purple one.
Sweet. So this acronym that I like to use, it's called SENSE.
Here it is.
Got it? Is this purple?
Nah, there you go.
Is it going to show better or what?
The black's already out though.
Nice.
Oh, I have brown.
All right, so we'll use SENSE. C-E-N-T-S. And the reason why I like to use this acronym is because it kind of gives you a roadmap of the main objective on the very first phone conversation. And so letter C, it starts with curiosity. So every person that contacts you is curious of something. They want to know about something. They want to know if you have this advertised rate. They want to know if you have no fees. They want to know, what you could do for them, right? And so that's ultimately what it starts at. But the reason why they're curious is because they have a specific need underneath that question. And so if they call you and they say, hey Demi, do you have a 2.5 no cost loan, right? The proper response would be, yeah, let me show you how to get that. Even though we know from seeing the rate sheet that that's not available. Does that make sense? The reason being is because these prospects, they don't know how to communicate our language. And so even if they did ask for something that's not available, that our goal is not to answer the question of like, hey, can I get them a 2.5? Our goal is to find out, well, why do you need that 2.5, right? And so from curiosity, you go to extracting. And what I mean by extracting is you need to take control of the conversation so that you're actually digging deeper and finding out the root cause or the real results that they're looking for. And so if they need a 2.5, what we could find out is that they actually need, let's say $300 a monthly savings. And the reason why they need $300 a monthly savings is because the credit card bills have increased. And the reason why the credit card bills have increased is because the wife lost her overtime. And the reason why the wife lost her overtime is because they're doing layoffs in her industry. Does that make sense? So there's deeper reasons why. It's not the 2.5, it's not the 3.5 or anything like that. So we have to extract their reasons because then we're going to find out what they need. And so the need, they're not going to tell you right off the bat. What the need is going to sound like when you first interact with them is, hey, I need to get a lower interest rate. I need a no-cost loan. Or I need to lower my rate by at least a full %. But it's not which is their need. Their actual need is what that does for them. So it creates like a ripple effect within their life. It creates like a ripple effect within their current budget. And so how many guys here have rent? You guys pay rent? Okay. And you guys pay a mortgage? Okay. So, all right, so even though you guys don't have a mortgage, don't let that intimidate you because you're talking about something that you don't even have, right? So at the end of the day, a mortgage is the same as rent. It's just a bill that's due. And if you don't pay it, you get kicked out, right? You get in trouble. And so the reason why I'm bringing that up is because each and every single one of them have a fixed amount of expenses. And a lot of these consumers or prospects, they don't have the ability to earn extra income like we do. They're not in sales. So their only real opportunity to earn more income is through overtime. Make sense? So they need to create enough income to meet their obligations. So it's rent, the car, the credit cards. And one thing that you're gonna go through a lot is their credit report. And so the credit report only shows what actually reports to the credit bureaus, but it doesn't go deeper than that. It doesn't cover things like daycare or hobbies, right? And these are things that we really need to extract, because that's the reason why they need the monthly savings. And if you could identify what their monthly savings is, then you find out their truth. And truth is the leverage that you need when going into the second call. So the truth is things that are going to influence them to take action. So it's their fears, right? There are three primary emotions that make people move, and they actually they dictate us as well. And those three emotions are love, fear, and survival, also known as self-preservation. And that's just a science, right? So things that we love motivate us. Things that we fear also motivate us. And things that we need to survive also motivates us. And you need to understand what those things are before you go into your second call. And then finally, solve. Whoops. You see, being a loan officer, you might think that you are a salesperson. And a lot of loan officers currently do think that they're salespeople. And that's why they have a difficult time in selling, is because they're trying to sell. But an actual loan officer is simply a problem solver. All you're doing is finding products for your consumers, not finding consumers for your products. Does that make sense? So you're basically you're using their curiosity to extract their need. Then you'll expose their truth, which then you have a problem to solve. You're serving a solution. And when you serve a solution and you actually have something that helps them and is applicable to them, meaning it's the difference of saying, hey, I could lower your rate and save you a couple $100 versus, hey, I could bring your payment down to, $1,800, which will create enough cash flow to pay off the credit card debt, put a little bit more money in the bank so you can offset the loss of income that your wife has gone through. This will also help you support your 3 children, which I would imagine there's other expenses that I don't even see on the credit report. That makes sense? It's a huge difference of how you communicate that actual service. And when you learn how to do that, not only do you have more control over the interaction, but you can get their focus away from the cost or the fees of the loan. Get it? Cool. So I want to make sure I'm not going way too far above you guys' head. Is the information making sense to you guys? You guys have any questions on that? Pretty straightforward, right? All right, cool. Which is cool because I'm like freestyling a lot of this shit. I just literally printed those subjects right now, and I'm covering it with you. So next topic is good habits to be aware of. So a couple good habits to have when going into your position right now is understand that your energy and your enthusiasm, your excitement is going to be your strongest tool. It's going to be your strongest advantage, because you're going to enter a sales floor where you're going to be around a lot of veterans and older people who've kind of fizzled out. They forgot what it's like to be new. And it's because they've made 10 grand, they've made 20 grand, they've made 30 grand. And they almost already expect it to happen. They've got very comfortable. And so right now you're like at the very beginning of the relationship where you're excited to see the person, right? Texting them like, I miss you too. Things like that, right? It's live. And after a while, it kind of fizzles out because you get beat up oftentimes, right? Not physically beat up, but you go through the grind so many times where it becomes a grind. It's no longer a game. And a good habit to have going in is understand that your job is going to be what you make it. And so we have 2 choices. Number one is you could treat your job as a grind, like a hard task to do, and look at it like, man, I gotta make a sale today. I didn't make a sale yesterday. Damn, I gotta make more sales. I gotta make more sales. Damn, I gotta do outbound calls. Or damn, I gotta put out this fire. That's looking at it as a grind, right? But you have an alternative choice to look at it as a game. And a game is probably, obviously what I preach upon my team and how I treated my job as a loan officer. And the game was that I needed to score 2 points a day. And I still influence my team to operate this way. And the 2 points are either 2 locks or 1 lock in an elevation or 2 elevations. Elevations means you have someone sold, they locked, and you have all their documents to elevate it to processing, okay? And so each and every single day, the end result before you go home, you're looking for 2 points. And those 2 points are gonna help you ultimately create it should work out to about 5 deals a week, in essence, right? And so if you got 5 deals a week, then that turns it to 20 deals per month. Given the margin for fallout, you should fund at least 10 to 15 per month. And if you're getting paid on average about $1,000 per deal, that's about $15,000 per month. Now, I guess the point is that the good habit though, is to continuously keep that momentum going. Because what happens when you enter in a sales floor that you're about to enter into, you're gonna have people who at one point were top producers. These people were killing it and they're making X amount of dollars that was very hard to imagine right now. But they fell off. And the reason why they fell off is because they couldn't maintain their momentum. And right now you're just coming at a point where you just need to find your momentum, right? And in order to find your momentum, it's very important that you perceive your job as in a different way. And it has to be a game. It has to be more or less like, hey, how many families can I help? How many people can I actually improve their lives for? As opposed to how many sales can I make? How much money can I make? Because when it's not about you and it's more about them and the people that you serve, your demeanor changes. The way you communicate changes. Your motivation is a little bit stronger. Because if it's just about money and you earn 10 grand, then who's to say that you're not gonna be content going into the next month? Because you've never earned 10 grand before, right? And the key thing is though, is when you earn that 10 grand, the best opportunity to keep that momentum going is right then and there. Where a lot of LOs fall off and you'll see roller coaster income, like 1 month they'll earn 10 grand, next month they'll earn 1, and next month they'll earn 7, next month they'll earn 35, right? You're just all over the place. It's because they haven't controlled their emotion, they haven't controlled that momentum. And so some good habits to help you control your momentum is you gotta look at your task every single day as a game. It's just a point system. And when you guys get on the floor, I'll be more than happy to show you the scoreboard that my team operates on. And our team, because I'm sure you guys probably don't know, our team has been the #1 team consistently for the last 3 years now, every single month. Yeah. And so I'm talking about most funded units, most average elevated loans, and they're very, very self-efficient, meaning they don't necessarily need me to micromanage their pipeline, to pull them to the side. There are some LOs that I gotta smack up a little bit because they fall off path, but it just happens to all of us. And what I'm getting at is the reason why they are able to excel is not only because they are able to control their momentum, but because every single day they understand that it starts off brand new, right? So every day we have a scoreboard, and even if you scored 5 points, 6 points, and you had an amazing day the day before, all of us know it starts back at 0 the next day, right? And the idea, the concept, and why I think this is very effective is because they're not bringing in their victories or their losses from the day before. And that's a habit I would strongly recommend you guys do now, because there are gonna be times where you're gonna lose a deal, you're gonna feel stupid for what you just said or how you answered a question. And the key thing is that you don't bring it in with you. You don't allow that to dictate or determine the rest of the day or the rest of the month, okay? And one thing that I always tell a newer agent that joins my team is mess up as much as you can. And the reason for that is because every time you mess up, you will learn what the wrong method is, right? You'll actually learn what the right way is. And oftentimes newer agents will come onto a team and they're just so psyched out that they're so scared to make a move. It's like overanalysis creates paralysis. And so they're so scared to move that they don't move, right? And that's one thing that I would recommend you guys not bring in with you. And fortunately, you guys are gonna be on a junior refi team. And teams are right next to mine, so it's gonna be fun. And I like the energy that you guys' team has because again, you guys, it's so new to you, like the relationship just started. And so if there's a couple good habits that I would also recommend is understand that in this industry, it's a choice. Everything is a choice. It's a choice between making it what you want or just riding the wave. And a lot of loan officers, unfortunately, even though like I offer free sales training or I do free sales classes, they choose not to attend because they look at it as like school. Like school's for nerds and they don't want to do it, right? And I used to be that way too. So I'm not, I'm not gonna hate on that. But at the same time, it's adopting the habit of continuously improving your craft, right? Because the better that you could be at this action, the more money that you'll make and the more job security you'll have. And there's a lot of loan officers who only stayed with their company for about 3 months, 6 months, and they move oftentimes, right? You'll just see them at different companies, never been at the same company for longer than a year. And it's because they simply look outward. And there's this one saying that my mentor taught me. He said, winners look in and losers look out. So like a winner will look in, meaning how can I improve myself? How can I work on my own skills? How can I improve my day-to-day task? As opposed to like losers looking out and saying, oh, it's because my manager doesn't like me, or it's because of the market, or it's because of these leads, or it's because of this company. And they use these external factors as excuses why not to win. And so each and every single day it's a choice. Just understand that you guys can choose between one or the other. Cool?
Very cool.
All right, sweet. All right, any questions on that? Any questions, Paul?
No, I think because they're all coming in all fresh and new, so I think a lot of times overthinking leads to paralysis, right? I think what they're doing is they're just really taking it in, soaking it in. So again, sometimes we're all afraid to sound stupid or beginnerish. And if you guys have a question that's in there, let it out, because this is what we do here. And this is how we also obtain extraction of information from other people, is asking these questions. So, Daniel is here with the opportunity. We talked about the power of the question. So, don't be afraid to
don't feel intimidated just because I'm wearing a suit or because I'm a manager. If you guys ever watch my content, I'm about as fucking down to earth as they come, dude.
You know what? Could you tell them, I guess this will help keep it real, is that what is it like to feel like you're on the bottom and then just feel like this isn't the industry for me, or I suck at sales, I thought I was going to be good, now I'm just diving out of it, or something of the sort of understanding that spot,
Yeah. Okay. So, which I hope you guys never reach that, and there's a ton of content on my channel to make sure you never reach that point where you're just like, dude, is sales for me? Oftentimes, if you ever get to that point, it's because you're looking at sales as a sale, and it's your definition of selling, right? So when you think of a salesperson, you think of maybe that used car salesman or the person knocking on your door at 7 o'clock trying to sell you solar panels, or whatever it is. You have this conception of a salesperson. That's not you. What you need to look at yourself as is the person, the subject matter expert, the consultant, and that's just a different light, right? The reason why some agents will get to that low level, they can't produce anything, is it just happens. It happens to the best of us. Like, I've been doing this for a very long time and I still produce, right? So I don't only manage, I still produce loans. So I go through these rough patches, I guess you can call them, where no matter what, I can't sell a deal. And those are gonna be the times that challenge you most, because you're gonna think like, damn, dude, it's just a run of bad luck, fate, this isn't for me, right? Maybe I should jump and look for employment elsewhere because it's greener on the other side. But what you're gonna find out is that you just gotta keep going. You just gotta keep pushing it. And the best thing to do is really take a step back and analyze what you're currently doing, and this is where recording yourself comes into play. Looking at every single one of your actions and down to the point of like, do you have a morning routine? You know, how much time are you investing in yourself? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you trying to, learn and refine your art and your craft? Because that's what is actually holding you back, is you're probably just going through kind of like a funk. And so what it feels like to be at a bottom, because I've been there before, is, in my opinion, I think it's just how we're wired. And so I operate very well under pressure. I love having a chip on my shoulder because I think that everyone doubts me and I can't come up, right? And that's how I came up as a customer service representative. Back in the day, like I was bald-headed, I wore baggy clothes. I was supposed to tuck in my shirt. I never tucked in my shirt. I was supposed to wear ties. I never wore a tie. And it was because I was kind of like thug, right? Like just rebel by cause. And but I had this chip on my shoulder because everyone that I was surrounded with lived in Irvine, or they lived in Orange County, or they dressed fancy. They went to college. And so I was the black sheep of the group, right? But I had a chip on my shoulder to say, hey, I could do this better than you. I'm gonna outbook you. Watch, check this out. And so I took it as a challenge to dig myself out to prove to them. Now, as I'm older, I don't give a fuck about what they think, right? Because your motivation changes. The only thing I'm worried about are my kids are straight, my family's straight, my bills are paid. I got enough money in the bank where I'm straight. That's what really matters, right? And I think that if you guys can look at it like that and say, who gives a fuck if this agent thinks that I'm new, or this borrower just hung up on me, right? Or if I didn't produce as much as this other person, because it's everything starts off fresh every single day, right? So even if I didn't have a good day the day before, fuck it, I'm gonna have a good day today, because I'm gonna have a choice, right, to let it all go and then move forward and create a new. Got it?
Yeah, so it definitely sounds like, when you're on that bottom, and what you're saying there is a systematic approach to what you're doing, right?
Right.
You're saying to take a step back or go out of your body experience and see the steps that you've taken. What do you find is going to be the most common things that they face that's causing these low numbers or these type of things that's putting them towards the bottom?
Yeah, I think what's causing the low numbers is your circle, is because the people who you surround yourself with are going to be a heavy influence on yourself, your production. Because what happens is, if you're the top producer within your circle, what they say is you're in the wrong circle, right? If you're making the most money in your circle, unfortunately you're in the wrong circle. If you're hanging around with people that are negative, like Debbie Downers, that always see kind of the problem or the issues about something, you need to kind of block them out, right? And move on to a group that actually sees a silver lining in things, and that's a little bit more positive. Now, I'm not talking about go hang out with Happy, the over annoying, like, hey, it's a great day. Oh, it's so awesome, chippity or whatever, too much caffeine. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people like that will actually push you and motivate you and say, hey, bro, I'm gonna do 2 sales today. How much you got? Oh, fuck that, I'm gonna do 3. All right, bet. Make sense? Like that type of energy. Where if you hang around with people and all they do is complain, like, man, these leads suck, all right, or the market sucks, what's gonna happen is that's gonna influence your emotion as well. And so then when you have a bad experience, you're gonna lean on that as well. So like, yeah, you know what, the market does suck. That's why I'm not making any sales. Instead of looking at other people who are producing and be like, wait, but if he could do it, I know I could do it too, right? What's he doing that I'm not doing? And that's something that I think helped me rise above in every environment that I've ever been in, was that I found out who was killing it, who was making the numbers. And because you're gonna notice, like when we do rallies, the rallies are, right? They call out the President's Club members. You're gonna notice people consistently at the top. And so what you have to do is just see what they're doing, like watch what they're doing from afar. You don't need to ask them like, hey, can you be my mentor? Like hit up their manager, right? And be like, hey, what is this guy doing? Right? Or send them a one-off email and be like, hey, congrats, dude, you're killing it every single month. Hey, just curious, what's your secret? Something like that, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean like, hey, can you mentor me? Can I sit by you? Right? Because that's kind of awkward, right? Like, fuck, man, I'm the new person. This person doesn't want me sitting by their desk. I feel awkward. I feel weird. And you don't have to do that. But me, for that matter, you guys come up to me anytime and be like, hey, D, how do I do this? Because I just love it. And I'm wired that way. And I like solving problems, right? So, but to like a veteran like Michael Lazinski or Drew Haverl, these older people who are on the floor, it's kind of intimidating because you're the new kid on the block. You may not know how to approach them. But the key is like find the top producers and emulate them.
Oh, gotcha.
What would you say are some of the key things that most of those top producers that you see are doing?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the common bond between those top producers?
Yeah, so they understand their KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators, right? So a KPI could be lead to credit pull. So how many leads you receive and how many you pulled credit on. Another one would be credit pull to lock. How many of the credit pulls you had that you turned into locks? And then locks to elevations. How many people you locked actually turned in their documents and elevated. And they're very keen on these little key performance indicators where if they're hurting on one, like maybe they have a lot of credit pulls, they have a lot of locks, but they suck at getting steps into elevated, then they just know that they need to fix that part. In other words, they have a plan, right? They're not just winging it. So they're very aware that what we do every single day is a cyclical process, right? Like from hello, congratulations, you're loan funded. Everything in between, it happens over and over and over and over again. And so the key is that, some of the common bonds or the common characteristics that they have is they're workaholics. They love the sport. And meaning that they're focused. They're not at the ping pong table. I've worked here for damn near 6 years. I haven't even touched the ping pong table. I've never touched the pool table, right? And I'm not saying that I'm too cool for that. I'm just like, it's just not me. Like, yeah, if I'm gonna be away from my family or be under a roof for 12 hours a day, I'm here for a fucking reason, right? I'm gonna make as much money as I can. I'm gonna figure out the system and build my book of business. I'm not here to converse or hang out by the water cooler, right? Like, hey, you're cool and everything. I can give a fuck about what you did this weekend, though. No, I'm just fucking.
That's real, though.
Yeah, but exactly, right? It's real. And that's why you'll see a lot of these top producers, they're kind of just like their head down and they just do their work. Not a lot of them are out there like burning up a lot of time going to lunch, right? Because they're maximizing the efficiency of their time. And they always practice. Yep.
Yeah, so I know you're mentioning with these top producers, obviously their work ethic is going to matter. Basically, time management is going to be a huge aspect of it, and looking at your systematic approach and all that stuff. We definitely talk about the separation between someone that's average and above average. Could you give them more insight on what somebody unique sounds versus somebody that's average? That's going to help these guys separate, and where to focus in onto that.
Yeah. Good. Okay, cool. So, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of average. There's going to be a lot of average LOs around you. And what I'm talking about average are the people who are always just basically hitting quota. And one thing that they do is they understand that sales, you have a minimum quota. So like Ray will be giving you guys quotas, right? Like our minimum submission quota, if you're new, is like 6, right? And then people will actually listen to that and just aim for 6. Whereas the above average are gonna be like, okay, well, what's the top producer doing? I wanna do that. If not, I wanna outshine that person. Make sense? Again, it's a choice. So just understand you could choose. So a lot of mediocre average people, they don't have pressure and they don't have a plan. So what I'm talking about by plan is that they don't really have a specific plan, like a goal. They just wing it and they're more reactive to the day as opposed to being proactive in driving the day. Right? And the pay difference is fucking astonishing. If you guys really understood the difference between pay from a mediocre agent to a top producing agent, like my top paid agent last month made over 40 grand. And the month before that made over 40 grand. The month before that made over 30 grand. But why? Like, I'm sure you don't need to make that much money. But the reason why he does it is because he's just capitalizing on the moment. Right? He had a choice to ease back and be like, hey, I'm gonna take a month vacation because I just made someone's annual income in 1 month, but he chose not to. And so it's kind of understanding that, the science behind that. Like, what drives you? And the reason why is because not only did he have a plan, but he also had pressure. He had fear, pressure of providing for his family, making the mortgage. There's a lot of ways that you can make pressure. And so I used to tell my agents, like, hey, dude, go rack up some debt. go buy a very expensive car that you probably can't afford right now. Because that's pressure, right? And that's the way I came up. Like, that's how I came into it. You know, like silly things, like suits. Like when you go on a sales floor, like a lot of the people don't wear suits. The only persons wearing suits are VPs. But I choose to wear a suit, right? Not only that, but I could have gotten my suit at Kohl's. Very easy. But I'm gonna put myself under pressure, and I'm gonna get a little bit, fine quality, because I am bougie. But at the same time, now I fit into character. So it's more of a mindset thing. Not only that, but when you wear a nice fine suit and you care about the little details like that, you feel more comfortable. You're on top of your game, and it comes out in your demeanor, right? And that's what separates average versus above average. Even though there's top producers right now that look like they shop at Kohl's or some damn swap meet, that's just the way they are, right? So it doesn't work for everyone, but you just got to find your craft. Answer your question?
Going back to like your key points for the first call, you're saying they don't know your background, be confident. So how do you do, like, not how do you do it, but you said don't say like, oh, what can I do for you? Because you're not supposed to be serving them. They came to you with their problem. Mm-hmm. So how else would you word that? Like, oh, how can I assist you?
Yeah, so when you download a copy of the sales script, another plug, right?
Yeah, I wrote that.
Be sure to download that. Yeah. So what happens is the opening line and how I control the conversation sounds something like this. Demi, right? All right. Hey, Demi, thanks for holding. The reason why they're transferring you over to me is because I'm licensed to provide you with the information you need. So just by saying that, I've already positioned myself with authority. Does that make sense? Not only that, but I let them know that I can give you the information you need. But before I begin, Demi, let me just make sure I can even continue with this conversation. So what I'm doing is I'm addressing their fear that they're going to be sold or they're going to waste their time. Make sense? A lot of people we engage with are fearful that they're going to be sold or they're wasting their time or they're not talking to the right person. Get it? And so, but before I begin, let me just make sure I can even continue the call. If I can help you, I'm going to show you exactly what I can do. But if I can't, Demi, I'm going to help you save a ton of time. I'm going to even point you in the right direction. So now I've just reassured you that even if I can't help you, I'll give you the answer and point you in the right direction. So it's a win-win. Make sense? Now I have control of the conversation. I could start off with anything. So what I usually start off with is, hey, this property on Myford, this is where you live, right? Got it. Okay, cool. And then this is when you have a property profile up. And so the reason why you want a property profile up is because you want to start announcing things that immediately build rapport. So like, hey, this property on Myford, it looks like you bought it back in '96. Last time you did a refinance was in 2017 with Quicken. What's the balance on that loan now? So these are things that are automatic. It's like, fuck, this guy knows all about me. Creepy, right? Some shit like that. But then, then you get them the answer. So like, oh, I owe about $350. Okay, cool, Demi. Besides the mortgage, what other debts do you have? Let's start off with credit card debt, right? And they're gonna say, oh, I owe about 30 grand in credit card debt. Got it. How much are you sending just in credit card debt? Rough estimate's fine, Demi. I send about 500. Okay, is the 500 minimum or is that above and beyond? We're just sending the minimum. Now I got leverage. Make sense?
And are you reiterating their name to like show authority? Cause like, not to say, but it feels like you're putting fear into me. Keep saying what you're saying. Like, okay, like, are you showing it?
No.
Like that?
So psychologically, one of the most powerful words that someone can hear is their name, right? And that's just rapport. So right, yeah. So it's making it very personable, and it's very professional too. But I wouldn't say like whatever your last name is. What's your last name? Simmons. I wouldn't say, hey, Mrs. Simmons. Right, because that's a customer service part of us. Hey, Mr. Simmons. Hey, Mr. Simmons, may I? No, don't do that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a big thing when anyone uses your name. It feels good when someone says your name, right, Demi?
Yeah, it brings my attention, but then at the same time, it reminds me, like, as a child, like, oh. Right.
No, you kind of want that. Yeah, you want that authoritative stance.
So I was thinking maybe that's what you're doing.
It's part of the wow factor, though, that someone remembers and says it in that way, that this is all about you.
Right. Yep.
I wanted to ask, since you brought that up, and you were talking about some of those things earlier, like not saying like or how may I help you? Like, what other things should I be mindful of as far as transitioning from a customer service representative into the loan officer position that I should be eliminating from my vocabulary that would help me look more professional instead of looking like a customer service representative?
Good wording. I love your vocabulary, huh? Just, man, that's proper. Yeah, very good wordsmith. I appreciate the words. That, like, if you ever hear me on the phone, I talk exactly the same because I'm trying to position myself as some expert, right? Even though I have sometimes no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. But to answer your question, some of the things to eliminate from your vocabulary are things that create triggers. So triggers are like buy or credit pool, right? These are triggers that put people in defense. Like some loan officers will ask, can we do an application? That's a trigger to me because that's a no, I don't want to commit to you. I'm not applying for anything. Make sense? So you want to eliminate that type of approach. But also when other things that you should probably stop doing is, as a customer service representative coming in, it's going to feel very awkward to have silence. Like you're going to want to fill in the voids, right? You're going to want to talk and keep talking. And sometimes when you're too excited, you want to interrupt them. So the key thing is you just want to listen. You want to let them do most of the talking, right? One of the best ways to actually sell somebody is you just need to actually use the words that they told you, and you can't use the words that they told you if you're always talking and we're talking, right? So elicit open-ended questions. Some questions to adopt is like, well, why is that important? Or like, I know you're looking for a lower rate. What would you do with the savings? Because then that opens up like, well, I would put the savings towards this. I'll put the savings to that. And that becomes your ammunition when you go into the second call. Make sense? Answer your question? All right. What time is it?
You got like 10 minutes? Trevor, did you have a question, Trevor? No? Okay.
No question?
I guess, I was going to say something here. So since they're beginning right now, what's the key focus that they should, because they're worried about the script and then encompass and then pricing out and, sounding like order taker, right? What is a very good start for them to come in at? Even Jennifer was coming back from mortgage after years coming back. Times have changed, so what should the focus be on, like to ease the stress on all these things? Yeah.
So big tip that I can give you guys is a 1003 it's a set order of questions, right? And the last thing you want to do is go in the set order or just be all inquisitive and questions. It's got to sound like a conversation. So like, how long have you lived here? What's the address to your employer? That doesn't really matter on the first phone conversation. You can get that on their pay stub, right? So what I would recommend is that you create some sort of paper application that just has the nuts and bolts. And the nuts and bolts is credit, income, title, any declaration questions. Declaration questions are past bankruptcies, foreclosures, things like that. And you're just making it a conversation. But don't be too worried about entering into the CRM or doing anything with Encompass right now until you get a little bit more acclimated with the system. So you're comfortable if you could talk about it and just, especially if you're recording it, you can revisit it later. But write down the answers. And then when you're done with that conversation, then go into the CRM and put it in because you're not under pressure, right? Because you got so many things going on. You got BV, Encompass, credit, right? Like, oh shit, is this where it goes? You don't want to psych yourself out. You want to be comfortable when you're going through it. So your first dozen conversations, I would strongly recommend just be paper. And then after a while, you'll know that you could do it all paperless. Make sense? Yep.
If you give them what you would say for the customer that I just want my rate, what's my rate, and the person with credit. Right?
Credit?
I don't want to pull my credit. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe those two things, because I think that's the biggest objection throw you're going to get right out the gate, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have something else.
Yeah. So the reason why my opening in the script actually happens that way is because I don't want to give them the opportunity to say, okay, but what's your price? Or what's your fee? And so you'll notice within the first minute, I already got leverage from you, right? So I knew that you're paying the minimum payments, which means you probably don't have enough to pay above and beyond, which means this credit card debt is probably waiting on your FICO score. These are just common sense things, right? So now, if you were to come out and say, hey, before I answer any of the questions, just bottom line, what's your rate? What's your fee? No, absolutely, that's what I'm getting for you, Demi. As a matter of fact, that's the reason why I'm even asking you these questions. If you remember, I'm not even going to go any further unless I can help you. So let me ask you a few more basic questions just to make sure I can even help you. Now, the alternative, Demi, is that you can continue paying the minimum payment on your credit cards, which then will take much longer to pay them off. In the interim, it's weighing down on your FICO score. So if it's important for you to become debt-free and remove that $500 minimum payment out of the equation from your budget, I think I can help you, but I need to ask a few questions first. Make sense? So you're never answering it, but you're keeping them going along because you're just controlling the curiosity, right? Like bottom line, Daniel, what's your cost? What's your rate? Yeah, I'm actually getting that information for you. Watch, and then bring them back. Make sense? Now, credit pull is very intimidating, right? Because you're asking someone their social security number, and you're telling them I want to pull credit. And one of the things that I answered for you is one of these triggers is say, hey, I'm gonna pull a credit report. So it's a trigger. It's like people are kind of wired to protect their FICO, and they think pulling their credit is bad. And so I'm setting up the precedence right from the very beginning and saying, hey, I'm not going to go any further unless I know I can help you. Make sense? So right before I ask the credit and says, okay, well, it looks like I can help you. What I'm going to do now is just go ahead and request a copy of your report. When I validate everything is in good standing, I'm going to go and release the disclosures. When I request your report, what's your date of birth? Make sense? So they've earned it. I'm not doing it too soon. And there's reason for it. So they feel like they've kind of advanced that far and they are permitted to do it. Because oftentimes when we ask them and we're not actually prepared with enough leverage or built up the kind of the momentum to even get that far, then it's just a normal question, right? And might just be like, okay, I'm gonna go and request a copy of your credit report. What's your social security number? All right, things like that's weird, it's awkward. Some agents, even to this day, will do the HMDA, like, hey, are you a male, female, right? What's your ethnicity? And they'll do it in order, which blows my mind, right? Because you don't need to do it in order. You can do it later. And you can also fill that in yourself, just based on their name, right? Smith, I'm sure this dude's not Chinese, right? Right? But I don't know, that's just me. So you gotta make it, more conversational. So last thing is, before I let you guys go, so cash, because he asked me to talk about how much money can be made right now. So 2-point system each and every single day. If you take 2 sales times 5 days in a week, that's not even including weekends, right? It's not even including sales on the weekday. You can make about 10, let's just say 10 loans that you're feeding into the pipeline, right? So 10 times 4 weeks equals 40. Granted, all 40 are not going to close, so we'll use a margin of about 50% fallout. Still, you're feeding 20 to your pipeline. And this is if you keep it simple on a daily goal, because what happens when you're a loan officer is you're going to be very inclined or kind of influenced to say, what's your month's goal? Well, my month's goal is 10, but you don't actually break it down to a science and say, okay, I just need to close 10, I need to close 10. What happens is from the 1st all the way up until the 7th, you believe you have time. Right? And it doesn't really become something that's far to reach until you're about 3 weeks in. And you'll be like, damn, I only got 3 loans and I need to do 10. Now you're operating under pressure, but you're also gonna find ways to kind of opt out and say, fuck it, I'm never gonna hit 10. Make sense? So instead, break it down to a science and say, I just need 2 every single day. Because my weekly goal is to feed my pipeline at least 10 deals every single week or 2 a day. Get it? So if you get 20 to your pipeline, and let's just say even 50% of that falls out for improper value or low value, income doesn't work, and 10 funded, you're averaging about $1,000. So you take $250,000 or $300,000 average loan amount, and you're getting paid 30 basis points. That doesn't even include your bonus or your tier that you earn on it. So a tier for 10 units, I believe, is like $3,000 or $2,500. So if you average 10 or $1,000 off 10 units, that's 10K plus a $2,500 rip on your tier. Your base by itself, not including your overtime, should put you at an additional $2,500. So just for an average month, if you can break down that system, that's $15K per month. If you do that over a year, that's 180 grand a year. It would change your life, right? You'll more than likely probably be making more money than almost every single person within your family. And now the question is, oh, but Daniel, do I need to work 12 to 14 to 16 hours per day to make that? Maybe at the very beginning. But if you continuously work on your craft and you follow the content, you really adopt the right habits, you could do it in 8 hours. I was doing it in 8 hours. I didn't take a lunch. Ray used to always used to get mad at me because I wasn't working overtime. I didn't sacrifice my weekends, but I was smashing everyone on my team. And it's only because I just broke it down to a science. And now my agents on my team are operating this way, and they don't have to work 12 to 14 hours a day. But they choose to, and so they're doubling that number. So instead of 15K, they're making 30 or 40 because they just put more pressure. Make sense? Cool. All right, that's it. So I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you. Yeah, man.
All right, we're done. You guys gotta get back.